Now let me show you what I did to get the result that you just heard. Welcome to Logic Pro 11. In front of us we got the product that I used to record my vocals on top of the backing track. Once I began doing the recording, realized that the song has plenty of layers. This is not just a walk in the park. It's not just simply recording the main vocals and you're set for the races. In reality, I actually struggled devising or deciphering the different ways on which they recorded vocals to get the sound that is part of the record. So, of course, this is just an approximation because I have no idea or no means to actually know exactly what I did. But I think, in all fairness, that I got as close as it was possible. So, let's see. First and foremost, we got the original vocals, the starting point, which is the main vocals. It sounds like this, right? So, in my eyes, in this post, in the skies, there's no one knows. Hides the face, lies the snake. I had to apply several effects to it while mixing. So if you want to see the whole mixing process, I have the entirety of it recorded and it's uploaded on my mixing channel. So it should be somewhere on the screen or in the description of this video. Let's continue then. Now, here is where the first interaction with the extra layers of vocals takes place, which is the first chorus. You'll see that I got this guy here. And for those of you who are not familiar with this kind of software, every single one of these lines represents a vocal take, okay? So in here we got the main vocals, but then we got the doubles. And the doubles takes place every single time that the chorus kicks in. See what happens. It sounds like this. Black hole sun, won't you come to wash away the rain? Black hole sun. Interesting, right? These double vocals, it's a fairly common technique that is usually done in a way that is very simple. You just record the first vocal take and then just double it by recording it again. It's slightly differently because it's impossible for you to replicate the same performance twice. The thing is that while mixing, I realized that I needed to add a little bit of extra effects. That comes in the form of this guy. See how the double vocal sounds like. Son, won't you come? Won't you come? You can see that it has a little bit of distortion because while doing my research on how this track or this record was created, plenty of sources pointed me at they didn't care about Chris Cornell's vocals clipping or saturating in the way-in. So that's how you get this beefy and kind of how can I put it, rough around the edges, but not necessarily ugly. Actually, you know what I mean. Has personality, let's say it that way. Sound to the vocals that are very important to it. So another thing that I realized is that once I hit the second chorus, is where things start to go crazy. You'll see. It sounds like this. Wash away the rain, black hole sun, won't you come? Won't you come? Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain. There is a backing vocal underneath the double, which is some form of a harmony. The thing is that it kicks in a very weird position throughout the singing performance. So it's not necessarily covering the entirety of the chorus. It's actually just covering the final section of a particular phrase, just for it to kick in during the second section of that chorus, and that's it. You don't have the continuity, or you don't have a fully harmonized chorus, if that makes sense to you. So that took me by surprise, and it was kind of distracting because I thought that it was, in my brain, that harmony felt like the main vocal line. But then we go to the Black Hole Sun section, and see, it sounds like this. Black Hole Sun, Black Hole Sun. For that one, during the mixing process, I had to pan it and automate the panning, which is moving the sound from one speaker to the other. Again, if you want to see how I did it, there is a video in their channel. But one thing that I realized is that take, I had to push myself quite far away from the microphone because I wanted to get the distortion because it's very important and very prominent in this particular phrase. I added a little bit more distortion during the mixing process, but most of what you heard, it's actually what I got out of the preamp on my recording rig. So what I did is pushing myself back and also applying vocal compression while recording, because you can see that the shape of this waveform is not as dynamic as, let's say, the chorus, the lead vocal. Why is that? Because you need to apply compression on your diaphragm while singing this part so it feels controlled and projected. Because this is actually the only section on which I think Chris's incredible talent showcases the most across the entire song. Because in all fairness, the track is kind of easy to sing. But this part is tricky because you gotta have plenty of control over your voice. You can actually ruin your voice if done incorrectly. And one more thing, when I say that the track is not necessarily difficult, I mean in the sense of technicalities, because I had a hard time getting as close as possible to the performance. Because the way that Chris sang this track is quite eerie, kind of all over the place, but at the same time controlled, making the whole thing feel ethereal and weird. And it's probably the reason why I love this song so much. And one more thing, in the final chorus, we got even more things going on, because we have to deal with the entirety of the stuff that I already showed you, but we also have this particular section, which also was kind of a surprise to me. Sounds like this. It's basically shouting, but it's in pitch. It's not just shouting. And of course, everything as a singer, you gotta realize, or you start to learn that everything that involves the human voice has to be done in a controlled fashion. Either if you want to create something that sounds kind of rough like this, you gotta do it in a way that it's controlled and done based on what you wanted to get as a result. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So when doing this, I began first by getting as close as possible to this sound using my head voice. So I was, Black Sun, won't you come? And little by little, I started to develop the proper technique to do it. And again, I had to push myself away from the microphone, because by doing so, I could still get some of the saturation out of me, of course, going louder than the rest of the song. And the compression and the saturation coming out of the preamp that I used for this recording added the final flair to the final touches, if that makes sense to you. So yeah, this track was kind of interesting to develop, because it was tough for me to devise or to actually realize how many layers they actually used to create this track. And also it was tricky because I needed to be quite clever in the way on how I would do the double of the singing, because let me show you one more thing. This particular section at the end, it gives me the impression, at least to me, that the singing is kind of randomized, but in reality it's not. There is a pattern. Let me show you. That guy in particular, I realized that that's actually a pattern. It's not done randomly. So what Chris did, he recorded two phrases, and once the third one kicks in, is when he does the little variation to that particular "Won't you come" phrase. Very clever. I gotta say that I loved doing this. It was quite informative and creative as well. Once again, when mixing, I also realized that the song is quite dry. The voice doesn't have that many effects going on in a noticeable fashion. I had to put a lot of effort into getting the sound of the vocals as close as possible to the original. And there are more effects than you might think, but they're not as audible as you might hear right now. So I totally recommend you to watch the mixing process again somewhere around the screen or in the description of this video. So thanks for joining, thanks for watching. If you want to support this channel, the best way to do it is by listening to music on Apple Music or Spotify, and also by following us on social media such as X and Instagram, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us in a much more personal basis. Also, don't forget to join our Discord so we can keep the conversation going. Link in the description as well. Now, as every single time I meet you, I gotta remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. Remember that I'll see you when I see you.